President Trump touting his immigration reform plan that he says will promote American jobs and higher pay. But there are questions about whether the plan can ever actually get through Congress and to his desk. Joining me now, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, member of the Senate Intel and Homeland Security Committee. Senator, thanks for your time.
Glad to be with you.
What do you make of this immigration proposal? Because we've now got pushback from both sides of the aisle and people saying it'll never actually get to you for a vote or anywhere else.
Well, what's interesting is I think most Americans already think that's what our immigration system is, and they would be surprised to find out that it's not. There's this assumption that people that come to the United States from all over the world through our legal immigration system are coming to be able to join our economy. That's actually not necessarily true. 70% of the people who come because they have a family connection, not necessarily because they're coming to actually start a job or engage in the economy. Most other nations around the world, their immigration that comes to their country comes first because they want to be a part of a certain job or a certain job field. And so they're actually coming into the country bringing more skills to be able to advance it. That's what Canada does. That's what Australia does. He's trying to shift it to a system that's focused more on economic development than just, hey, we're America. If you want to come, you come.
Well, and your colleagues there on the Hill know the difference. They know how the current system works, and most of them, Republicans and Democrats, agree the system is currently broken. So is that enough to get votes even to proceed to debating this, as we saw was such a challenge even on health care?
I would hope that it is something that we could proceed to debate on. It's one of my great frustrations that the Senate is supposed to be a place where we have debate on any issue, but the cloture rule, the 60-vote threshold, has been used to keep us from having debate on critical issues. In fact, I proposed to make a change in that rule, that cloture rule, so that we can actually get on and debate any issue. It's absurd to say we can't even talk about it. Immigration is a big issue. Illegal immigration is a big issue, as well as legal. Let's open it up on the floor of the Senate. Let's actually have debate on it and try to get to a resolution.
Yeah, and you've written a very interesting op-ed talking about how to make the Senate work again. And you're not going to where the president has gone, saying take everything to 51 votes. Right. But you are saying there are some changes that can be made so that the minority, whether it's you, whether it's currently the Democrats, can't stall all business as usual, nominations and those kinds of things. You write there, it's time we put an end to the hyper-partisanship and delay to serve the needs of the American people. We can be deliberative and productive at the same time, but that will require fundamental changes in the rules, not eliminating the filibuster entirely. Would you have support first from your own leadership to do that, and any from across the aisle?
I would, actually, and I've actually had a lot of conversations, including last night I had a large bipartisan conversation with a group of senators to be able to talk about this exact issue. We had a very good dialogue on it. There's a lot of support for this. Most people don't know there's actually 2 cloture votes on every bill. You have to have 60 people to agree to start debate. You have to have 60 people to agree to end debate. And then when you actually pass the bill, it just takes 51. Well, what I'm proposing is taking away the first cloture, that it just takes a simple majority to open up debate. You can debate any issue, debate any topic, any bill. But if the minority is not heard, you still keep that 60 vote at the end to make sure that we can keep debate going until every voice is heard. I think that's the heart of the Senate, is to do debate, not to prevent us from doing debate. So keep the 60 at the end to be able to force debate to actually happen, get to resolution, have final passage. I also think we need to change the rules on how we do nominations. Democrats have held up the nominations for President Trump, where he literally can't get his staff in place. Typically, a president by now would have around 200 staff that have been brought through Senate confirmation. President Trump has 50 at this point, and it's been this deliberate slow walking of these nominations. We need to stop that so a president can actually bring their own staff on board.
Yeah, we know that's incredibly frustrating for any administration when you get to that point that the minority is able to stop business as usual. And to that point about the president, what do you make of those within your party who are openly criticizing him? There are questions about how much tension there is between the Hill and the White Houses.
Right.
All of you try to get things done, and so far, a major legislative win eluding you.
Yeah, and that's been the big frustration. Obviously, the health care bill, of the largest of those greatest frustrations, we had 49 Republicans solidly behind getting a chance to get rid of the individual mandate, the employer mandate, move health care from federal control back to state control. We needed one more Republican to do that. Couldn't get them on board to be able to do it. The frustration that a lot of people have is they'll say, why can't all Republicans think alike? We are a big tent party. Oklahoma Republicans don't think the same as Republicans in other parts of the country. We have a very open party that people can engage in this arena of ideas, which means everyone doesn't fly alike in this. So with that, we still have problems to be able to move some things through. Also, the House, the Senate, and the White House all work independent. You've got to be able to work together to be able to actually get things done. So it'll be important to be able to work with the White House. We don't need the White House doing what President Obama did. President Obama ran against Congress for 8 years and said Congress is the problem and made this combative relationship between Congress and the White House, and they got very little done during that time period. We need the White House working with Congress to say we're not each other's enemy. Let's sit down together. Let's work it out, because the House, the Senate, and the White House have to all agree to be able to make legislation. So we shouldn't demonize each other. We should work together to try to find our differences, get them solved, and let's get it resolved for the American people.
One of the things keeping you busy as a Senate Intel Committee member is the probe into Russia. Over on the House side, Devin Nunes has now sent a letter to the NSA asking for more information about unmasking requests by Ben Rhodes under the Obama administration. Your reaction to that, and what can you tell us about how things are proceeding on the Senate side?
Yeah, it's a reasonable request. Some people don't know what unmasking means. Unmasking is typically when we're doing foreign intelligence and trying to be able to listen in on two groups of terrorists. If terrorist one is talking to terrorist two and they suddenly start talking about assassinating an American or trying to get involved in some American something and they name an American, obviously that information is gathered, but the name of the American is blocked out. It'll just say American person one in all the listing. At some point, some individuals will say, I need to know who that person is, because they're talking about attacking them. So the FBI will say, I need that person unmasked, so that I can figure out if we need to be able to protect this person. What Devin Nunes is asking is he's asking specifically why this person needed unmasking, why this person needed it. And I think Devin's trying to get to the bottom of the issue about classified information. How did it get out? What did this person have to have this name unmasked? So unmasking is not necessarily bad. That's something that happens very commonly as we're trying to protect Americans' identity, but also trying to protect Americans if they're facing threat. But it is a reasonable question to be able to say, did this person need to know this information? If they didn't, why did they ask for it? And then what happened to that information afterwards?
All right, Senator James Lankford from Oklahoma, thank you so much.
You bet. Glad to visit with you again.